Chapter 23. A most exciting night. If only we can creep up the slippery slip that runs right round and round the middle of the trunk, and get to Moonface's at the top, we shall be able to help him, said Joe, feeling about for the trapdoor. I wonder why Moonface didn't just slip down the slippery slip himself, said Bessie. Oh, he'd think that there'd be plenty of red goblins at the bottom of the tree, ready to catch him when he flew out the trapdoor, said Joe. But I don't believe they would know about this slide. He found the trapdoor and then swung it open. Hold it for me whilst I climb in, he said to Bessie. Bessie held it. Joe began to climb up. But, oh dear, the most terribly slippery slip. As soon as I try to manage to get up a little way, I slip all the way back down, as fast as I'd climbed up. As soon as I climb up a little way further, I fall down again, he groaned. This is awful. He can never get up this way. I shall keep sliding down all the time. Let me try, said Bessie eagerly. So Joe slid out of the trapdoor and let Bessie creep in. But it was just the same for her as it was for Joe. The slide was far too steep and slippery to be climbed. Whish, 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 said the trees nearby. Bessie ran over to one, put her arms around the trunk, and pressed her left ear to it, and she listened. Tell the squirrel to go, whispered the leaves. Tell the squirrel to go. Red Squirrel, you go up, said Bessie at once. Can you manage to do that, do you think? Yes, said the Red Squirrel. I have claws on my feet to hold with. I am used to climbing. But what's the use of me going? I'm not clever enough to make plans with Moonface. Whish, 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 said the trees loudly. Joe pressed his left ear to one. The squirrel can throw down the rope down the slippery slip, whispered the tree. Of course, said Joe in delight. Why didn't I think of that? Tell us, said the girls. Joe told them. Squirrel, you must climb the slide to the top, and then you must ask Moonface for the rope to slide down that he would normally send down for the cushions, but instead of letting it down through the branches of the tree, he must let it down the slide itself. Then we can hang on to it and pull ourselves up. Oh, that's a really good idea, said Bessie. Shh, said Joe, as he heard a shout from a goblin up the tree. We don't want them to guess what we're doing. The goblins were coming down, whispering. We don't want them to guess what we are doing. The goblins are coming down, whispered Fanny in alarm. I can hear them. What shall we do? We'd better get inside the trapdoor and sit at the bottom of the slippery slip, as quiet as mice, whispered Joe. Go in first, Squirrel, and climb up. You know what to do when you get there, don't you? Yes, said the squirrel, and he disappeared up the slide, digging his sharp little claws into it, just as if he was climbing up the outside of the tree trunk. Joe pushed Bessie inside, and then Fanny. He climbed in himself, and then shut the trapdoor. 3 goblins jumped down to the foot of the tree, and began hunting about, looking around. I know I heard someone, said one of them. Well, so long as we don't let them pass us up the tree, they can't do much, said the other, with a laugh. I don't think you heard anybody. It's just the trees whispering. Wish, 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 said the trees at once. What "There, what did I tell you?" said the goblin. They jumped back onto the branch of the faraway tree, and the children hugged one another and chuckled. "I wonder if the squirrel got to the top of the tree yet," said Joe. As he spoke, a little sound came down the slide, and a soft, silky sound, and something suddenly touched them. "Oh, a snake!" cried Bessie in alarm. "Don't be silly, it's the rope that the good little squirrel has sent down for us," said Joe, feeling it. "Now, we'd better go up one at a time, for Moonface will never be able to pull us all up at once." Fanny went first. She was hauled up all the way up the slide. It was very strange, so dark and quiet. At last she reached the top. Moonface was there, red with pulling, and a light burnt in his funny round room. He was simply overjoyed to see Fanny. He hugged her, and then she sat down. Then he sent the rope down for Bessie. She came up, and then Joe. "Don't make too much noise," said Moonface in a low voice, as he squeezed them all in. "The goblins are outside everyone's door," said Moonface. "We are so sorry you are captured here like this," said Joe. "Couldn't you have slid down the slide and escaped? Or did you think there might be goblins at the bottom?" "Well, I did," said Moonface, "but I also thought that if I slid down, I'd be leaving all my friends behind in the tree, and that seemed to be mean to do as well." Yes, it would rather be mean," said Joe, "to save yourself and leave others. Moonface, what can we do to help?" "Well, I simply don't know," said Moonface. I've thought, but I can't think of anything really good at all." "That's a pity Silky isn't here," said Joe. "We could talk it all over with her. She's clever." "We can't possibly get to her," said Moonface. "She's locked in her just as I am." "Moonface," said Fanny suddenly, her face red with excitement, "I've thought of a way to help." "What?" cried the others. "Well, couldn't the red squirrel slip down the slide, out the trapdoor, and then take a note to the brownies in the wood?" asked Fanny. "Do you remember how we helped them when we first came to the wood? They said they would always be pleased to help us if we wanted them." "Yes, but could they help?" asked Moonface doubtfully. Nobody quite knew, but Joe suddenly nodded his head and gave a squeal. "Shh!" said everyone at once. "Sorry," said Joe, "but I really have got an idea. At last, listen. The red squirrel can tell the brownies to come up here in crowds. We'll pull them up on the ropes, and then the Moonface shout out to the goblins outside, and he'll tell them the magic spell they want to know. And when one of them open the door, the brownies and ourselves can all pour out and defeat the goblins." "That's a splendid idea," said Moonface, looking at Joe in admiration. "Simply wonderful," said the girls. Joe was pleased. "And we'll unlock everyone's door, and they can all join in," he said. "My word, this is going to be exciting. Can you see how dreadfully angry the angry pixie will be, and Mr. What's-his-name? My goodness, they'll go for the red goblins like wildcats." Everyone chuckled. The red squirrel touched Joe's knee. Will you give me the note then?" he said. "I know where Mr. What's-his-name lives, and I will take the letter to him, and let him call all the brownies together." Joe took out a pencil and wrote a note on a piece of Moonface's paper. He folded it and gave it to the red squirrel, who folded it even smaller and tucked it inside his cheek. "That's in case I get caught," he said, "by the goblins. They'll never think of looking for a note inside my cheek," he said. He sat on his bushy tail, gave himself a push, and then set off down the slippery slip at a tremendous pace. Fanny giggled. His tail was his cushion. He said, "Isn't he a darling? And I do hope he finds Mr. What's-his-name all right." "Well, we'd better just sit quietly and wait," said Moonface. "I don't want the goblins opening my door and seeing you all here. They'll know we've got a plan, and then they'll know we've got a plan then. I don't want the goblins opening the door and seeing you all there. They'll know we have a plan then. Well, we brought you your tea that you didn't eat this afternoon," said Bessie, and she undid the bag. "Here is some radish sandwiches, some buns, and some toffee." "We'll all have some," said Moonface, "and I've got some pop biscuits too." So they all sat around quietly on Moonface's curved sofa and bed and chairs, and ate and whispered, waiting for the squirrel to come back with Mr. What's-his-name and the brownies. Whatever happened then?